Okay, another Friday afternoon Q&A. So what are we? It's a bit after 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Yeah, it's been a busy week. We've had with repairs, etc. Leading into Christmas, people want their bike repaired before the holidays, and we're having a bit of a close down, Christmas and New Year and stuff. So. Yeah, so it's been pretty busy. So I only managed to get that one video edited out, which was the BMC video. So uploaded that this morning. I do have a Cannondale Evo Super 6 Evo video almost finished editing as well. So that's keep an eye out for that coming up soon. Last week with the Q&A, I ended up uploading two videos because it went so long. Let me know in the comments, whether you want it longer or shorter, because I can have it as a long video, or I can have it as a couple of shorter videos if it's more manageable watching it like that for you guys. So just let me know what the preference is, and then we can take it from there. So so let's have a look at some questions. So we'll go through the comments where we left off last Friday. So here we go. I think titanium frame is a better option for the average riders. The extra money better spent on other parts. Look, we did touch on that the other week. It does really depend on who's made the titanium frame. So lots of variables in that as well. So in the welds. So so I'm not going to get into a debate of this material is better than that material, blah blah blah, because it's the way it's built, which is probably more important than anything. And one thing to keep in mind, on any well-engineered part, like on an airframe, aircraft or a race car or whatever, the people who actually spend some time, optimizing it, they don't just say, okay, we're going to make the whole thing out of carbon fiber. What they do is they use the best material for each application. So to give an example, on the F-18. On the landing gear strut, the US Navy wanted a composite landing gear strut for corrosion resistance, etc., and they tried to develop that, and it just wasn't suitable. It just wasn't up to it. So so Carpenter Technology, which is a steel foundry in the US, came up with an alloy steel. It's a stainless steel called AirMet, and so then that was developed for the landing gear. Since then, that's been sort of commercialized, that sort of variation of alloy, and which is the foundation of the Reynolds 953 tubing. I think it's the 953. So it's Carpenter Technologies basically make the alloy steel for the Reynolds steel tube sets, and it's an incredible steel. And I think the wall thicknesses on those tubes goes down to sort of like 0.4 of a millimeter or something like that. It's incredible stuff. However, if it's not welded properly, then the frame isn't going to be any good. So and it's the same with any material. Okay, back to questions. Great video. I was the one who asked you about doing a review on one of your frames. I don't want you to cut one of your frames. God forbid it. Yeah, that's right. I spend too much time building them to just go and cut them in half like that. I will do a review on my bikes. Basically, my bikes, there's no real advantage to cutting them in half anyway, because the inside is a tooled surface. So they're molded. The tube, I make the tubes around a mandrel, so they're mandrel wrapped tubes, so you don't have all these wrinkles and yeah, it's a totally different process. So you don't get those same sort of faults. So there's no real advantage to cutting it up anyway. But I will, yeah, it's one. I will do a walk around one of my bikes sometime. It's just a bit like logistically doing the video of it is a bit difficult. I've done the walk around videos sort of before with the bike in the stand. I think I did one on a Scott the Scott scale, and yeah, just without the without a gimbal or something, it's hard to keep the camera still actually. So anyway, I'll have a bit of a look at that and see what we can do there. What's another comment on the press fit bottom bracket? Seems like planned obsolescence, to be honest. Yeah, probably is. Wasn't expecting much with the Shimano press fit BB86 on my Bianchi, but so far no issues. No creaking. Yeah, so I think the Shimano one is actually probably works the best out of the ones I've seen. And I've got them on a couple of my bikes, on my mountain bikes, and I haven't had a problem with them. So here we go. Have you had any experience with graphene tyres? I received a few promotional videos from Victoria earlier this year on the tyres. So what people call graphene, and I did a video on this earlier, quite some time ago. What people call graphene isn't actually graphene; it's graphene oxide as a filler. So, yeah, but maybe have a look at the video I did on graphene, and it'll sort of give you a bit more information on that. But pure graphene, as it's marketed, it isn't really that available as yet. So yeah, that's sort of one for the future. But it's similar to the carbon nanotubes stuff that that was all the rage a few years ago, but has sort of died out a little bit now. What is your take on filament winding technology? Look, filament winding technology is fantastic for certain applications. All the pressure vessels and things like that are made with filament winding. It does depend on the like, for instance, for a tube that's primarily seeing bending stresses, you want a lot of the fibers in the zero direction, and you can't really wind. I mean, you can, but the filament winding is not really optimized for doing 0 degree fiber placement. You'd use another process for that. So filament winding is great typically for plus or minus 45s, plus or minus 30s, that sort of stuff. Yes, you can go down to very low angles, but it's not really an optimum process for that. So great process for certain things. There's not one single process which is the best process for making every single part. Why not bond an aluminium plug in the carbon steerer to prevent crashing? Yeah, great idea. And what I actually do on my own bikes, I bond a carbon plug. So I make a carbon plug, which I put a helical thread insert into it and all that sort of stuff, and then bond it in there because I know exactly where it needs to be. The reason why they don't do it is because people change forks, they change their stem height. It's not really that viable from a production sort of fit to do it like that. If you've got the skills to do it like that, if you've got a lathe, you can turn up a plug, or you still want to isolate the aluminium really from the carbon. You can do that a number of ways by anodizing it, etc. So, or putting a barrier ply. But yeah, then that plug then becomes a structural component, and that works really well. Another one on graphene. Graphene in helmets. Again, there isn't really any proper graphene. People the universities and research labs, they'll make a graphene thing and they'll show, these are the properties of it, but they're talking on microscopic level. It's not actually, no one's making sheets of it, rolling it out in a production sort of environment that I'm aware of, like in a pure graphene. So it's graphene oxide fillers and things like that, and they do improve things, but it's not what the graphene that they're saying. Yeah, it's a bit of a play on words, really. Can you say something about the disadvantages of advanced twin molding? Do you have cut-up frames using this method? Twin molding. You probably need to give me a bit more information on what your definition of twin molding is. Not sure what you mean on that one. I'm completely happy with the basic editing. It's the content that I'm interested in. Keep up the good work. Some of us realise that you're not making any money out of these videos, and it's actually taking you away from your real business, which is true. Yeah, so thanks for that. Thanks for appreciating that. I do enjoy doing the videos. Yeah, but it's sometimes it can't be the highest priority I have. Yeah, anyway. Tips for removing a star nut that has been installed in a 1-inch carbon fork steerer. Yeah, I had to do that a little while ago. I had a fork come in with that, and yeah, there was on that comment. There's a link to another YouTube video where a guy basically shows how he gets it out of an aluminium steerer. Some of the things that he suggests I wouldn't recommend in a carbon steerer because you can damage it further. So the way I did it was I drilled the center piece out like he described in that other video, and then with a very small solid tungsten carbide drill, I drilled through the steel spring to break that apart, so I didn't have to hit it with a hammer. So those, like 1/8 inch or 3mm thereabouts solid carbide drill, A, they're expensive, and B, they're really easy to break. Yeah, especially drilling thin spring steel. So yeah, but that's the way I did it. Okay, what else? Any comments on the felt technology? I haven't looked at that. I've seen that. I've seen their stuff before. It's basically the like a semi-rigid bladder type molding. So yeah, I mean it's a good way to do it. It's not foolproof, but that's the way they all seem to be doing it stuff these days. Considering steerer damage, why are manufacturers not adding 90-degree carbon like hoop plies in the top of the steerer? It would only add 5 grams. Yeah, it's not the weight that's the problem, that's the difficulty. It's actually laying it up. And if you have those hoop plies and then you have your bladder, you won't be able to expand those plies and compact the rest of the laminate. You basically, the bladder will press up against the splice overlap on the hoop, and it'll lock that off, and then you've got no chance of expanding it. You don't have enough force. So that's why it's a molding problem. It's not a weight problem. What do you think of injected carbon like what Lamborghini uses? Yeah, so Lamborghini call it sort of carbon forging, where they use basically short strand chopped fiber and then put it in a big press and press it, sort of similar to like a forging. It has its place for certain applications. It's not structurally optimized by having known fiber orientation, but it's useful, and that's how sort of a lot of the dropouts and other sort of things like that are made in a similar sort of way. Okay, love your videos. I do have a question. Do you see a difference in build quality in one brand between different levels of carbon, for example, between the specialized 8R, 10R, 11R, etc., or the Trek 400, 500, 600? There can be variations. It's very difficult to identify different grades of fiber from a conventional test. It's possible by going to a lab and analysing material that way, but yeah, you won't be, certainly not visually and not ultrasonically. And since the process, the moulding process is pretty similar, you won't really be able to identify much difference. So it more comes down to if they've used a more advanced moulding process, then you can tell, there'll be a much bigger difference. So yeah, it's a difficult one to answer that. Thanks for putting these out and adding an honest expert opinion on the bottom brackets. On my Cannondale, I replaced the standard press fit 30 bearings and always had a creaking. Then I used an aluminium Chris King and haven't had any creaking issues since. Well done. Yeah, as I said in the press fit video, there are options out there which, yeah, it's a whole nother industry creating problems which weren't there before. Yeah, I did answer the one about the titanium frames. Samuel Sales asked a question, but it's in I think it's Italian or Spanish, which I'm not sure. I'll have to do a Google Translate. Sorry, I'll have a look at that when I do a Google Translate on that one. Question: a lot of people say lifetime warranties means a better made bike or a better product. Can you explain what these warranties mean? Does it relate to a better product, or is it just a % of write-off? Well, you could argue the opposite. Actually, you could say basically, if your product is really, really good, you don't need to put a warranty on because you know it's not going to fail. So, so you could actually argue the opposite up to a point. But the reality is, a warranty is there to cover faults which they know can happen. So that's why they have a warranty. So, if it's a short warranty, well, obviously they don't really have that much confidence in the part. So, I mean, the warranties is a whole topic for a whole nother video. And I did the Friday afternoon chat a few weeks ago. I talked a bit about warranties. So, yeah, it's I don't think you can make a blanket statement by saying if you have a lifetime warranty, it's a better part. The other thing, and I spoke about that before, was that a lifetime warranty can often be what they determine is the lifetime of the bike, not your lifetime. So, yeah. Don't use a hammer. Oh, that's half my toolkit now defunct or redundant, he says. So, oh, I got a message. There we go. I'll read that later. On the press fit bottom bracket, BSA. So a lot of people liking the old English British Standard bottom bracket. Do you think, Raoul, that like the different bottom bracket standards you mentioned, the marketing guys sold something that makes the bikes easier to build? The same logic applies to 26, 27.5, 29 wheel size. It was just a marketing ploy. Oh, look, there's definitely, when bike sales slow down, it's like, well, we've got to come up with a new standard so we can keep selling bikes. I've ridden 26, 27.5, 29. I do think the 29 wheel size on a cross-country bike is probably a little bit quicker. But it depends what you're riding for. If you're riding for fun, it doesn't really matter. And I've still got a 26-inch wheel bike, mountain bike that I built. And, if I go riding with the kids on that bike, it's still a really enjoyable bike ride. So, so there's definitely marketing involved with a lot of that stuff. Okay. What are your thoughts on BB86? Are there any less problems? Not really. They're all sort of in the same sort of basket. Here we go. Sorry, but saying the Cannondale is not one of the best means you haven't used it properly. It is designed to fit Cannondale forks where it's perfectly adjusted. That's relating to the fork compression plug video. Look, I disagree with you on that, and for the reasons that's in the video. It's not a matter of using a plug properly. I don't think the plug is designed properly. Really good design means that anybody can fit it and use it properly. So you shouldn't need to be an expert to use a design. That plug, in my opinion, doesn't support the steerer as much as what needs to be done. So yeah, but you know, it's happy to discuss these opinions. I've given my reasons on that video. Yeah, if you want to keep talking about that, yeah, happy to keep talking about it. Whoever mentioned out or pointed out the Colnago fork expander, which was that really long expander. Yep, the running with Shempers. So thanks for that. Thanks for pointing that out. What is your take on the future of carbon recycling? So that's a huge area and something which, yeah, I'm trying to look into a little bit more. I went to a conference a few years ago and there was a talk about that, and it was all doom and gloom, really, that people keep talking about it. And I think for the automotive industry and for the airline industry to somewhat as well, like when all these 787s in 25, 30 years, when they're being phased out, what are they going to do with them? So people need to solve this. So yeah, I'm sort of, it's one of the things in the new year which I want to try and look into a little bit more again. So yeah, it sort of has its ups and downs. Like they have a big media launch, oh, we can recycle carbon, and then you don't hear about it for a few more years because they actually haven't been able to do it like they thought they were going to do it. So big problem, needs a big solution. Okay, next question. What do you think of English Cycles? They make some really nice steel bikes. Yeah, I haven't seen any of their bikes personally. Like I haven't been to NABS or any of that. I keep thinking I should get over there one year, but I haven't as yet. Yeah, look, they do make some nice looking stuff. Yeah, some of the stuff I've seen recently, he's put like carbon seat tubes and stuff like that and bonded those into the rest of the steel bike, and it looks really nice. I don't know where he's sourcing his tubes from or anything like that, but yeah, they look like nice bikes. Quick question. I've used synthetic sealant on my car and found it to be brilliant for repelling rain and stopping things sticking to the body as much. Yeah, I mean, you can, people put like, silicon spray or something like that on their bike, and it stops the bike picking up as much gunk. It does mean if you need to repaint it ever or repair it, you really need to remove all that stuff, otherwise nothing's going to stick to it. You get paint contamination, etc. You frequently make reference to your background in aerospace. It would be interesting to learn more about your career, what qualifications you studied, how you got started, and when you got into business for yourself. Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. Basically, I started in aerospace in, when was it, 1992. And yeah, worked in that sector for many years of consulting and contracting. Worked at the Department of Defence, etc., and set up my own company in 2008. So nine and a half years thereabouts ago. So yeah, but I think I've got a bit of a bio on the website. Yeah, have a look at that. It'll give you a bit more thing. Okay, now we're talking about planes. We go the Blackbird, the fastest, highest flying aircraft ever made, that they tell us about. I mean, all those other UFO sightings, we don't know about those, like Area 51 out in the desert of, in the high desert. There's all sorts of stuff going on there. Conspiracy theorist, anyway. Okay, so the Blackbird SR-71, which I've seen at the one of the museums, aircraft museums in California, out near Palm Springs. It was incredible plane. Completely made out of titanium, and commercial airliners are made from aluminium and carbon fibre. That says a whole lot, really. Yeah, look, it's and then there's a whole bunch of points. You'd rather have a titanium bike for a good number of reasons. I have a light speed, so the welding is second to none. I have seen light speed titanium frames crack at the weld, fatigue crack at the weld. And even if one cracks, I'd rather be on a titanium bike when it fails. I've cracked aluminium bikes before during riding, and they still have enough strength in the frame for me to safely pull to the side of the road. Look, there's so many different modes of failure. I don't want to make generalizations like it. I had a friend of mine just before Christmas a number of years ago riding an aluminium bike, and it fatigue cracked at the head tube down tube junction, and he's the next thing to hit the ground was his head. He suffered a brain injury. He was in intensive care before Christmas, didn't recognise his kids, etc. He recovered somewhat, but lost his job. Wasn't good. So any bike can fail. Any material can fail. So let's not make generalizations. A carbon bike warranty is worthless. Well, we've talked about warranty, and look, I mean, sometimes they are worthless. It does depend on the brand. Some brands are really good, some not so good. It won't get soft with age like carbon. Again, that depends on how well it's made. It won't get galvanic corrosion. Yeah, pretty much it won't. I don't have to put it in the bin if I drop it at the coffee shop. Well, you can get your other bikes repaired as well. It feels way better to ride. Well, that's, there's so many variables in that. That's sort of personal judgment. We can talk about that forever. Speaking specifically about light speed performance bikes, they are just as stiff as carbon, or stiff enough that 99% of the riders won't tell the difference. Look, stiffness in a bike is, I mean, it's design. I mean, but what you do find is the most powerful riders in the world, which are the track sprinters typically, they ride carbon bikes to get the stiffness, and those frames weigh 2.5 kilos, that sort of thing. I don't know if you can see that bike there at Sean Eady, who was the world champion. That's at the 2004 Olympics. That was a GT carbon bike. A handful, well, not even, I think 3 or 4 were made or something like that. Sean got one of them. I restored it for him. I went through it all, did some repairs, repainted it so he'd use it at the Olympics. That frame weighed 2.5 kilos. The chainstay on the drive side was a piece like that, and so thick and almost solid laminate. It was incredibly stiff. And he said that's the only bike he could ride which wasn't scary, scary flexy. So anyway. It doesn't creak like carbon. Well, that's bottom brackets, like you can make anything creak. Yep, I don't have any problems with BBs, press fit or otherwise. I wouldn't have any problems with ceramic bearings. Well, ceramic bearings is a whole nother story. I don't worry about cosmetic damage or paint chips because it's not painted. Yeah, that's a good point. My bike is as light as most carbon bikes of the same price. Yeah, that might be true. Resale value is higher than carbon. Yeah, that might be true. Easy to clean. Yeah, that might be true. I can see damage without the need for special tools? Well, as I, in the welds, you don't know if there's voids in the welds, and that's why in aerospace they don't scan. They don't weld typically primary structures. The SR-71 was titanium, titanium skin and titanium honeycomb, and it was all electron beam welded in special stuff, beyond the scope of most bike manufacturers, let alone most aircraft manufacturers. That's why it's, they brought those planes back into service some time ago, because they couldn't have, you can't make that stuff anymore. You don't have the budget to make that stuff. Tyre is not affected by UV light. Yeah, that's definitely true, especially in Australia where you've got a big hole in the ozone layer and the UV just fries us. So we do see carbon bikes get damaged because of that, the paint, and if they're not painted very well. I could keep going. The point is, unless this guy made your carbon bike, I suppose he's talking about me, you would be mad to buy one with your own money. Getting a titanium bike was the best bike choice I ever made. I'm glad you're really happy with your bike choice, and that's what it comes down to. You've got to be happy and comfortable with what you ride. And then there's more talk about the SR-71. I mean, we talk about this stuff all day. I love all this stuff. But I'll keep answering some questions because we've already gone for quite some time. What are your thoughts on Planet X bikes? They're a generic carbon bike out of China. Look, I've seen some good stuff from them. That's all I can say really at that point. I would like to see a BMC team machine cut up. Well, you saw the race machine. I have got, as I said in that video, I've got a team machine to cut up. Could you please explain a bit about repairability of aluminium frames? Look, aluminium frames can be difficult to repair because from a heat treatment point of view. So I've actually done carbon patch repairs on aluminium frames to repair them. And that sort of stemmed from when I worked at the Department of Defence. We repaired a Navy frigate, an aluminium frigate with carbon and boron patches, because where the crack was in the superstructure to weld, that area, it would have meant stripping all the electronic counter warfare equipment out, and that was going to be very complex because you need to do it from the high frequency welding, etc. So we did a carbon patch repair, and that was very successful and no problems, and that was in the 90s, mid 90s. Hi from Germany, really appreciate your sensibility. I still use square taper BBs on my bikes. Is there a real downside to them from your point of view? Will upgrading to threaded into external cup bearings make a major difference in terms of stiffness? If we go back to the track sprinters, who are regarded as the most powerful bike, cyclists going, a lot of them still run square taper, or if they don't, they run Octalink. And if it's good enough for 2500 watts, it's probably good enough for 500 watts or 1000 watts. So I think the stiffness, is probably a little bit, there's stiffness to weight, which is another story. You can make it lighter with these external things, but you can still make a sufficiently stiff product. Thanks for the videos. You're welcome. Could you explain different molding techniques? That's a whole topic in itself. We won't have time to do that now, but I'll take that on board. Love the format. Thank you. Would really love you to clear up some of the myths and confusion about different lubricants. And then there was a comment, research zero friction cycling. Yeah, look, they're doing a lot of testing and stuff. It looks good. Leading into the Beijing Olympics, we did a whole bunch of testing with CSIRO on chain friction for the track cyclists and different coatings and lubricants, and used these $20,000 torque sensors, and we did find differences. but it's a very time-consuming thing to study. So the zero friction cycling guys, maybe I'll hook up with them when I can, and we can talk about some of the stuff, our experiences with that sort of stuff. Can you do a video on the cut up Orbea Orca on the wall behind you? Yeah, like I can do it. I don't have to wait to cut it up. I can probably do that when I get a chance. I always put a spacer above the stem, even though it looks untidy. Yep, it's definitely structurally better, I think. Can we see the Orbea Orca and the giant TCR? Yeah, when I get a chance. Thanks so much for answering my question. You said there is no woven rock fibre. Well, I beg to differ. Even on Alibaba, you can find woven basalt fibre. Yeah, look, what I mean, it's not the structural properties. They're not that great. Like it's strong, but it's actually quite heavy. So its specific strength properties aren't that great. And I've got a link. I've got a link of some of the properties from one of the basalt fibre places, and there's a fibre comparison table. And so the density is 2.66, whereas carbon is 1.76 to 1.8, depending on the grade. Now the tensile modulus of the basalt is really low. It's 93, whereas standard modulus, or often, which is low modulus, is 273, and higher modulus, I mean the real ultra high modulus can go up to 650 or something like that. So, so it's not very stiff. The tensile strength is good. It's 4,500, and carbon is typically around 3,500. We're talking megapascals here. So it's strong. But in terms of specific strength, which is strength divided by its density, carbon is around 2,000 megapascals per cubic gram, and the basalt is around 1,700. So yeah, so it's particularly in stiffness. Now bike frames and a lot of these structures are stiffness critical, and so you want a stiffer fibre. So that's where the basalt, yeah, you can, and people are using it on braking surfaces and stuff like that, but it's not going to be replacing carbon in absolute structural performance anytime yet. Oh geez, this is taking ages. There we go. Here, next question. Got a 5-year warranty on my 3-year-old Bianchi. Just read the small print. Looks pretty good. Only problem is I forgot to register the product. Oh, got to read that fine print. About the snake on the Yarra trails. Good time to see how high you can bunny hop. Yeah. Again, can you cut up the Orbea Orca? So yeah, I'll get to that when I can. I travel a lot, so I bought a Ritchie Breakaway Carbon. I'm still in one piece and happy. Any thoughts on the engineering challenges? Yeah, I haven't had a real close look at those. Yeah, maybe I will sometime. Another one on the press fit bottom brackets. There is one called BB Infinite. It looks to solve the problem, but it works by replacing the plastic cups with an aluminium sleeve, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I have seen those, and I think I mentioned it in the video that they're, they're quite good. Here we go. Comment on the Pinarello F8 cut-up video. You do know that you can have your carbon frame repaired now to the quality it was before it was damaged. Well, it depends who's repairing it. Yeah, I've seen some really bad repairs. That one was beyond it though. Sometimes, yeah. I mean, that's my core business is repairing. Or one of the core aspects of this business is repairing bikes. So, yeah, but good to know that people have got repair on their radar. When will you do one on the Chinarello? And then people go, oh, Yeah, haven't really done one. No, I haven't. I haven't cut that one up yet. I did the rim, the Chinese rim versus the MB rim, but I haven't cut up the Cinderella. So yeah, I will get to that. I've been promising that one for a bit too long now. I'll get to that one. Okay, now I've uploaded the BMC video, and there's a few comments on that. BMC badly molded carbon, and then there was a comment, ouch. Yeah, that's pretty harsh. But yeah, maybe it's a Chinese knockoff. Yeah, unlikely. I'm really enjoying these videos, and I think they're important. I don't see anyone else putting out content like this. Keep it up. Thank you. Bike companies must be cock a hoop when rail goes full Quincy on their frames. I think I understand what you're trying to say there. Yeah. Well, it's just as it is. It's like, I'm just showing you what it is. So it's yeah. If they don't want to be scared, make parts that don't look like that. These videos want to make me go back to steel. Have you ever seen inside a DeRosa Protos? I have had DeRosa Protos come in, and it actually had manufacturing faults in it. I wasn't overly impressed, to be honest. Yeah, I mean that's low sample size, but yeah, the ones I've seen, yeah. This looks like what happens when a brand stops keeping their OEM on task. The more hands-off and involved you are with contact production, it seems the more sketchy the production samples become as time goes on. Very true, very true. One of the things we did when I was involved with the Melbourne Star OPI design and manufacture, it was manufactured in China. I went over, I audited the factory. We went through, we selected the factory, based on quality procedures, etc. And then we had a Chinese quality inspector who was an employee of Pacific Brands at the time, who would be at the factory when our production run was being done to oversee all that. So I thoroughly recommend auditing factories, by someone who knows what they're doing. I'm available for consulting on that sort of stuff if you need that, and then also someone on the ground during productions who can keep an eye on the quality control and solve any problems. So some of the bigger brands do have that. Obviously, Giant, they own the factory, so it's they're sort of on the ground. Yeah, but it's an excellent point. Who makes BMC? It varies. There's a whole bunch of different factories, and they sort of rotate through as well. Thanks for another very informative video. You're welcome. A little bit of talk about warranties. Giant does a genuine lifetime warranty on carbon frames. Look, the Giant warranty typically is very good. Whenever I make a recommendation, if I find a problem with a Giant frame that's been a warranty, which I consider to be a warranty, and the customer takes my report to Giant, they honour that. So yeah, they've been excellent. That's in Australia. I obviously can't speak for the rest of the world, but I'd imagine they'd probably be quite similar. I think it's a company policy sort of thing. I'll be sticking to lugged carbon frames from now on. Okay, there's a few more. I mean, questions keep rolling in from the BMC video this morning, but I'll answer a couple more, and then it's time. It's been long enough as it is. I'll be sticking to lugged carbon frames from now on. Any focus size Alco is in the shop. They're pretty popular in Oz now. Well, the lugged carbon frames, you can have bonding problems as well. So yeah, there can be issues with those. We've seen a lot of the older, you know, like the Colnagos and Looks and Times, etc., develop bonding failures at those lug joints. So yeah, basically, like I said before, anything can fail. Any focus size Alcos, yeah, I have seen a number of those, and yeah, so far I've been pretty impressed actually. Yeah, I might do a video on that. Couple more. So is this a problem with process in making or with the skill of the person making? Surprised it was like this. It's a combination. Yeah, it's process and then if depending on how the operator operates, they can exacerbate problems as well. So to give you an example, whenever there were redundancies when I was working at Boeing, there's talk of redundancies and you know job losses, etc. The scrap rate would go up. You know, there were more defects in parts, etc. So operator has an influence. Yeah, look, let's leave it there. There's a whole bunch more questions coming in on that on the BMC video, and yeah, that's a whole nother day's talk. Yeah, let's cover that another time. We'll leave it at that, and yeah, comments below. As I said at the beginning, I do have a Cannondale Evo video coming up. I'll see how I go in the next couple of weeks. Leading into Christmas, it's going to be pretty crazy. But I'll try and keep bringing some more content and try to keep doing this Q&A. All right, time to go and have some dinner, and yeah, I'll try and get out for a bike ride on the weekend. We've got a few Christmas things on as well. Yeah, all right, leave it at that. Enjoy. See ya.